I'm wearing my orange jumper, which means KTM news. Breathe a sigh of relief. We have fresh rumors on the KTM 490 range, and that means more details on the 490 Adventure. Finally, we've also got more details on the NX500, which is the dirt-focused version of the CB500X. I also wanted to talk about the Scrambler they're building off the same motor as well. We've got fresh details on the 5.5 and 9.5 adventure bike from MV Agusta. Plenty to get through today, so let's just dive straight into it. And while we haven't got any confirmation directly from KTM, we do have a lot of fresh speculation from media outlets talking about how KTM will be bringing the 490 range to the international motorcycle shows at the end of the year. So this is really encouraging news, as we really haven't heard too much lately. I did make a video talking about where the hell is this bike and why haven't we seen it. It is encouraging to see the rumor mill get going again about this bike. Now, whether this is the case or not remains to be seen, but it is encouraging that we might get to see the 490 adventure bike at the end of the year at the International Motorcycle Show. Even if we don't see the adventure bike, it still will be really great to see the 490 road range, because then we'll be able to figure out power specs, engine characteristics, as well as a rough ballpark for how much weight and the aesthetic design that they're going for with these bikes. That will really tell us a lot about this future 490 adventure bike. What's even more interesting than that news is the fresh rumors going around that CF Moto's 450 SR sports bike that they recently released is actually using the motor that will be in the 490 adventure bike and the rest of the 490 range. Now, why does this speculation hold water? Well, as I've stated before, CF Moto and KTM do have a working agreement, so they share engines. Often CF Moto will use KTM's motors in their motorcycles. So it would be no stretch of the imagination that this 450 SR is actually using a variation of what will be in the 490 adventure bike. And the interesting tidbit about that engine is that it is a 270-degree crank motor. Personally, 270 degrees is my favorite firing order for a parallel twin. I just love how it mimics a V-twin. It also gives a fantastic sound, and also the more torquey characteristics that you can often get out of a 270-degree firing order. This, I think, will really set it apart from most of the competition. It is all speculation though, but very interesting food for thought. Let me know your thoughts down below. What do you think KTM are going to be aiming for with this 490 adventure bike? Do you think we'll get a fairly road-based version first with cast wheels, or do you think they'll go the whole hog and release a fairly dirt-orientated 490 adventure bike, or do you think they'll release both at the same time with an adventure and an adventure R that is far more dirt capable? We have fresh new details on both the 5.5 and the 9.5, namely that the 5.5 will be shown its production version at this year's international motorcycle shows, and that they are both fairly far along to being available for us to buy. They're saying that the 5.5 will be available for purchase in 2023. MV Agusta has stated that this parallel twin in the 5.5 will be roughly 550 cc's. It'll make 47.6 horsepower and 37.6 foot-pounds of torque. This will also be a 270-degree firing order parallel twin, because they wanted to reduce vibrations and they admittedly just love the sound. Now, this motor is developed in China in conjunction with QJ Motors. MV Agusta have stated that the 5.5 in its current form is designated to be more of an adventure tourer. It's more road focused than it is dirt focused. It's got a 1917 spoke wheel combo, so this is a big signifier that this is more for doing those long touring rides and being very comfortable, with a little bit of dirt capability sprinkled in. And it's using KYB suspension, and it only has 135 millimeters of travel. That's 5.3 inches for all the US viewers. That really isn't much travel. The weight of this bike is also very interesting. They've said that this is going to be 220 kilograms or 484 pounds dry. So that is a fairly hefty bike. This is really in the middleweight adventure bike weight category. If you're doing adventure touring, that is in the positive column for a lot of your riding characteristics. You do want a bike that is going to be stable in heavy winds and hold a line on the road really well. But for me, I really like my lightweight bikes, and I really think that small displacement adventure bikes, their real advantage that they have over the big adventure bikes is the fact that they're so much lighter. Next is the 9.5 from MV Agusta. Now this is more of their dirt focused adventure bike. The obvious evidence we have that this is a more dirt focused bike over the 5.5 is the fact that the suspension has far more clearance. It's 8.7 inches at the front and 8.3 at the rear. And we've got that all important 2118 spoke wheel setup for the dirt. This is going to be a 930C triple engine in the adventure bike. Triumph is actually going to have competition in the triple adventure bike market. So they haven't exported the development of this motor to another company like QJ Motors. This is an in-house development and one of MV Agusta's first new motors in quite some time. Very interesting that they've developed this engine specifically for this bike. The motor is stated to make 123 horsepower. MV Agusta are saying this will have the TFT dash, Wi-Fi connectivity, radar, cruise control, all the stuff that you can use to pilot the things to the damn moon. And the last little interesting piece of news to show how much MV Agusta are investing in, particularly this 9.5 range and the adventure market, is that this is the first bike to be built from the ground up by MV Agusta in 12 years. And MV Agusta also said that this 5.5 and 9.5 aren't the only bikes to come onto the market. They have more adventure bikes planned to slot in amongst these two bikes. Let's talk about the NX500 next from Honda, which was recently trademarked and got media outlets talking everywhere, as this could signify a more dirt-focused version of the CB500X. If you're not familiar with the NX name and what it signifies, you can check out the video I've already done on the topic. This used to be the Dominator range of motorcycles from Honda. Now, they were single cylinder, they were much like the KLR 650, they had a cult following, they were fairly dirt capable, but they still had a fairing and some of the comforts of the adventure bike. So when this NX500 was trademarked, it really got tongues wagging that this could potentially be a more dirt-focused version of the CB500X, which we really wanted to see for so long. How long have we been asking for Honda to put at least spoke wheels on that CB500X? Now we have renderings of Honda's NX200, which they trademarked at the same time. Now this is speculated to be an Asian-only market bike like the CB200X. This does give us a potential indicator on the aesthetics of the NX200 for certain, and possibly what Honda could be going with the NX500. Of course, the jury is out as to whether the NX500 will look like this NX200, but I do think that this is somewhat of an indicator of the style aesthetic that they will be going for. The other really interesting piece of news around the 500 platform from Honda, as Honda are planning to make a scrambler off this 500 motor. How dirt orientated this CL500 is going to be will remain to be seen. They have trademarked the CL500. Honda have a rich history of making a CL series of bikes, and if the renderings are anything to go by, it'll actually be quite a good looking bike for the price. But these renderings suggest that it probably won't be very dirt focused at all. My guess is that we'll get cast wheels on this bike and it won't be too dirt focused at all. A speculation is saying this will probably be developed more off the Rebel 500. What I will say from these renders is that this is quite a good looking motorcycle. So if they can keep the aesthetics roughly like this at the price point that these Honda 500s have been able to offer, I think this will be a massive success. One of my favorite things about this 500cc range from Honda is that it really is quite a fantastic motor. It gives you enough power to have fun, and while still being at a price point that can be afforded by mere mortals. QJ Motors is rumored to be making a 650 V-twin adventure bike aimed directly at Suzuki's V-Strom 650, and is going for a 645cc 90-degree V-twin. This really is quite interesting to see, as we've really seen not many V-twin adventure bikes lately. It really has been a parallel twin fest. The bike is projected to make roughly 75 horsepower and be about 480 pounds, so roughly 220, maybe just under kilograms. So that's fairly heavy for a middleweight. Of course, this is all just rough rumors. At the moment, we don't have any confirmation from QJ Motors. The other interesting feature this bike is rumored to have is Brembo brakes, and the looks, it is fairly forgettable. affordable. The other big question I have about a bike like this is how much cheaper than a V-Strom will this be? If it's not significantly cheaper, I really don't see a reason not to go with a V-Strom 650. Great sounding motor, hugely reliable, massive aftermarket, pretty affordable too, and big enough to sit on the highway. Maybe QJ Motors has identified that there's some markets that the Suzuki isn't getting to that they think they can meet the market demands, or maybe it really will be just so much cheaper that it will get some segment of buyers saying, hey, at this price, I'm taking the risk. So of course I'm editing away, I'm almost done, and a new story drops. But this is a really exciting story. It's very muddy, it's hard to tell what the hell is going on, but from the photos, this is very, very promising. I wanted to break down the major claims from articles and kind of point out how I don't think they're exactly accurate. There really isn't too much information. So what you're looking at is a claimed spy shot of a potential KTM 390 Adventure Rally, or maybe an enduro bike, or even a GasGas 400. And some are even claiming that this is a 450 Dakar replica to be bought over the counter from KTM. So let's go through those stories and try and figure out whether they hold any water. Let's start with a 390 Adventure R, Rally or Enduro bike. This could be a possibility, but not in the current market cycle. I say that because the motor in this bike and the engine mounting and basically the look of the frame looks very different to the current 390 Adventure. This motor looks like the motor out of the Duke 200 and the Duke 390 that are set to be released in 2023. This isn't a current market cycle engine from KTM. So that opens up the possibility that this could be an even smaller displacement, dual sport, adventure bike, enduro bike, whatever it is. It could be smaller displacement. Of course, it could be the 390 Adventure R or enduro bike that we really wanted, and they've moved on from the spy shots that we saw 3 months ago with the current market cycle engine, and they've now moved to the future engine. That would make more sense from a continuity and a marketing perspective to put the new 2023 motor in it. Let's talk about also this being a GasGas 400 adventure and enduro bike. That certainly is a possibility. I really do hope that GasGas do get these bikes at least in some form themselves, because GasGas does seem to be the brand that KTM have chosen to be the cheapest of their 3 variations of KTM, Husqvarna and GasGas. So a cheaper version of any KTM bike is good news in my opinion. So that could be a possibility, but the fact that they're claiming this will be a GasGas only bike and it won't be a KTM or a Husqvarna really is confusing to me, as that's not really KTM's playbook at the moment. Their playbook is to do a premium model with Husqvarna, a middle of the range with a KTM, and then the cheaper variant at GasGas. I don't think that this will be a GasGas only model, but who knows, it's definitely not out of the realm of possibility. Let's talk about the rally replica possibility as well. If they're talking about a competition rally bike like you can order over the counter from KTM based off their EXC platform, this is certainly not that bike. You can see this isn't the EXC frame. You can see that this isn't an EXC 4-stroke or 2-stroke motor, so that's also a red flag. But the other red flag for me is that exhaust system. Why would you have a low slung exhaust system with a muffler that big, which looks like it's been made to get past Euro 5 emission standards for road emission standards? Why would you put that on a rally replica competition bike? You just wouldn't. It doesn't make sense. Too much weight, too restrictive when you're wanting maximum power and performance. The other option is that this could finally be one of the 400 or 450cc long surface interval rally bikes that we've been screaming for on this channel for what feels like decades. So that could also be a possibility. Who knows, but I'd love to know your thoughts, as I'm sure you've all got some great insight as well. So chuck it down below. Thanks for sticking with me to the end. And to you guys that have made it this far, I did want to ask one final time, would you like to see me do more Scrambler content? And as always guys, don't forget to stay shiny side up, and I'll see you in the next one. Catch you later.